Wyoming Territory, winter of 1885. The snow fell soft as ash across the hard-packed main street of Hollow Pine, a frontier town buried in winter and secrets. Beneath the gray sky, townsfolk gathered like crows around a gallows, their breath fogging in the cold. Men with rough hands and wary eyes, women whispering beneath shawls. Everyone watching, no one speaking. Eliza Whitlock stood at the center of it all, lone, slender figure in a threadbare coat, blonde hair braided back, blue eyes steady despite the tremble in her hands. Across from her, flanked by two deputies, stood Sheriff Amos Pike, tall, broad. His badge gleamed like polished brass, but his eyes were hard and small, like a snake sizing up its prey. "Eliza," he drawled, voice smooth as oil over ice. "I've been mighty patient." He took a slow step forward, boots crunching in the snow. The silver ring in his palm gleamed under the weak sun. "You lost your pa, your ma before that. No brothers left to protect you. It's a hard land for a woman, unless she's smart." He held the ring up. "Say yes now, and you'll have shelter, a future, a husband the whole territory respects." The crowd leaned in. Eliza felt their eyes like needles on her skin. Respect. They all knew what kind of respect Pike commanded, the kind bought with threats and quiet graves. Eliza's jaw tightened. Her fingers curled into fists at her sides. She shook her head once. "I'd rather freeze in the snow." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Sheriff Pike's face darkened, the mask of civility cracking. "Be sure of that now," he warned. "A woman alone, terrible things can happen." Eliza's voice was quiet, but steady. "Let him happen." The threat hung in the air, heavy as storm clouds. Sheriff Pike turned to his men, his smile thin and cruel. "Make an example of her." The world narrowed to crunching boots, rough hands, and the endless expanse of snow. Eliza stumbled as Pike's deputies dragged her through the pines, their laughter biting sharper than the cold. "Could have had a warm bed," one sneered, yanking her forward. "Could have been Mrs. Pike." "Pity," said the other, spitting into the snow. "Boss don't like to be embarrassed." The wind whipped through the trees, carrying flurries of snow like ash from a fire. Dark clouds swirled overhead, the storm building its teeth. They reached the cliff just as the land dropped away beneath them, a sheer wall of rock and ice, plunging down to the jagged gorge below. Eliza's heart kicked in her chest. Below, nothing but sharp rocks, snowdrifts, and the skeletal fingers of dead trees. "No," she gasped, heels digging into the snow, resisting their grip. "You wouldn't." A cruel laugh cut her off. "Orders are orders." They shoved her to the edge. Her boots slipped on the ice-crusted ground, toes inches from nothing. The wind roared, battering her, slicing through her thin coat. Eliza fought, thrashing, but they held fast, 2-1, and she was already weak from days of fear and grief. "You got no kin," the first deputy sneered. "No one'll miss you." Tears stung Eliza's eyes, not from sorrow, but rage. "Cowards," she hissed. "Every one of you." Behind them, the trees creaked under the weight of snow. Distant wolves howled, a low, mournful song. The deputies exchanged a look. Then they pushed. Eliza's world vanished in a blur of white and sky. Her scream was lost to the wind. Branches tore at her coat, ripped at her arms as she plummeted. Her body slammed through a tangle of scrub pine, her shoulder cracking against frozen bark. The air left her lungs in a ragged gasp. Rocks scraped her skin, snow blinded her. She hit the ground hard, rolling, tumbling, until finally she came to rest in a deep snowdrift at the bottom of the ravine. The world spun, pain flaring through every limb. Eliza lay still, struggling to breathe, the storm howling above like some angry god. She was alive, broken, bleeding, but alive. A strangled laugh caught in her throat. The sheriff's men had wanted her dead, but fate, cruel as it was, wasn't done with her yet. Groaning, she pushed herself up, every muscle screaming. The gorge walls loomed high above, slick with ice, impossible to climb. Snow fell heavier now, covering her tracks, the trees, the jagged rocks. Eliza's vision blurred, her lips split, her fingers stiff with cold. No one was coming. No posse, no townsfolk, no family, just her and the wilderness. For a heartbeat, despair clawed at her. But then her eyes narrowed, her jaw set. They thought she'd freeze, starve, or get picked apart by wolves. They were wrong. Eliza Whitlock wasn't done yet. She wrapped her arms around her bruised ribs, forced her numb legs to move, and limped into the trees, alone but unbroken. The snowy wilderness swallowed her whole. The snow never stopped. It fell in heavy, smothering sheets, covering tracks, swallowing sound. The pine trees groaned under its weight, branches bending like bones ready to snap. Eliza Whitlock stumbled through the endless white, her breath ragged, her limbs leaden. Her right arm hung useless at her side, broken in the fall. Her lip was split, cheek bruised, every step an act of stubborn defiance. The pain was constant now, like a heartbeat pulsing beneath her skin. Her wool coat, already thin, offered little protection. Frostbite nipped at her fingertips, her boots soaked through. She'd managed to rip a length of cloth from her petticoat, crudely binding her arm to her chest. But the ache still gnawed at her bones. Worse than the cold was the hunger. 2 days, maybe 3. She'd lost count. Her stomach clawed at itself, hollow and burning. She scavenged what she could, chewing frozen pine needles, licking snow to stay hydrated. But it wasn't enough. The only sound was the wind and the low, eerie howls that drifted through the trees. Wolves. They were out there, watching, waiting. Eliza kept moving, her vision swimming, every tree looking the same. For one terrible moment, despair dragged at her like an undertow. The sheriff's men had counted on this, the land finishing what they started. But something in her wouldn't quit. Maybe it was spite. Maybe it was the memory of her father teaching her to ride, to shoot, to stand tall even when the whole world tried to grind you down. She wouldn't die here. Not like this. A branch snapped behind her. Low growls echoed through the snow-laden trees. The wolves had found her. They circled, a blur of gray shapes against the snow, eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. 6 of them, lean, hungry. Their ribs showed beneath patchy winter coats, but their teeth gleamed sharp as ever. Eliza's heart hammered in her chest. She grabbed a fallen branch, jagged and frozen stiff. It wasn't much, but it was something. The lead wolf crept forward, hackles raised, yellow eyes fixed on her. Eliza raised the stick, breathing hard. "Come on, then." Her voice cracked, raw with cold and fear. "You'll find I ain't easy meat." The wolf lunged. Eliza swung, the branch connecting with a dull crack, but the impact jarred her broken arm. Pain seared white-hot. Another wolf closed in from the side. She stumbled back, legs weak, the pack tightening like a noose. And then the crack of a rifle shot split the air. The lead wolf yelped, collapsing into the snow. Another shot. Another wolf dropped. From the shadows, a lone figure emerged, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a heavy fur coat, rifle smoking in his hands. A mountain man, weathered and silent, face half hidden beneath a rough beard. His eyes, sharp and wary, scanned the treeline as the remaining wolves slunk away. Eliza's knees buckled. The man strode forward, boots crunching in the snow. He didn't speak, didn't ask questions. He simply extended a gloved hand. For a moment, pride and fear tangled in her chest. But survival left little room for pride. Eliza grasped his hand, The shelter was little more than a cabin stitched together from logs and hides, tucked deep in the pines, nearly invisible beneath a blanket of snow. Inside, the fire burned low but steady, casting faint shadows across crude furniture and bundles of supplies. The mountain man, Lucien Holt, as she would later learn, cut away her ruined coat, examining her battered body with clinical precision. His hands were rough but skilled, setting her broken arm, applying salve to her bruises, rewrapping her injuries. Still, he said little. Only when he finished did he finally speak, a voice like gravel and winter wind. "You're lucky." His gaze flicked to the window, where snow piled against the glass. "Or stubborn." Eliza managed a weak smirk. "Bit of both." For hours, they worked in silence. She gathered firewood despite the ache in her limbs. He fished supplies from hidden caches, dried meat, hard bread. Trust came slow, but it came. Lucien never pried, never asked why she was out here, half dead and hunted. But his eyes, sharp and knowing, suggested he understood enough. Eliza, for her part, said little of Pike, of the fall, of the town that turned its back on her. But each time she forced herself to stand, each time she ignored the pain, fetched water, mended what little clothing she had left, Lucien watched, and the faintest ember of respect flickered in his eyes. The wilderness howled outside. The storm raged on. But inside that crude shelter, two strangers shared warmth, silence, and the fragile beginnings of an alliance. The forest was quieter than it should have been. Too quiet. Lucien Holt stood at the cabin window, eyes narrowed, shoulders rigid beneath his worn fur coat. His breath clouded the glass as he scanned the tree line. "They found us," he muttered. Eliza Whitlock straightened from where she'd been rolling a crude bandage. "How many?" Lucien's jaw tightened. 3, maybe 4. More'll follow if we don't end this clean." The ache in Eliza's body roared a protest. But fear didn't paralyze her anymore. Not after the fall. Not after the wolves. Not after Lucien pulling her from the edge. Literally and otherwise. She moved to the window. Down the slope, shadows flitted between the pines. Men in dark coats. One of them carried a rifle slung across his back, another a wide-brimmed hat pulled low. Sheriff Pike's men. "Go," Lucien said simply. "Take my rifle. Cut west. I'll draw him off." Eliza didn't move. "Not leaving you," she replied. Lucien's eyes flicked toward her, faint surprise hidden beneath the weathered lines of his face. "Girl, this ain't a fight for—" "You don't know me," she cut him off. "But those bastards do. And I ain't running no more." For a heartbeat, their gazes locked. The silence crackled like ice underfoot. Then Lucien nodded. "All right." Together, they set traps along the perimeter. Thin tripwires hidden beneath snow, sharpened sticks buried like teeth in the drifts. They gathered ammunition, checked weapons. The cabin was no fortress, but it'd do. The howling wind carried distant voices. The hunters were closing in. Eliza wrapped her coat tighter, heart steady now. They wouldn't take her again. They'd either fall, or she would. The first shot cracked through the stillness, splintering the trunk beside Eliza's head. She hit the snow, rolled behind the cabin wall. Lucien returned fire, the crack of his rifle echoing through the pines. Sheriff Pike's men advanced, their dark shapes weaving between trees. Cold eyes, cold hearts. Eliza's pulse thundered in her ears as she fumbled for the revolver Lucien had handed her. Her fingers shook, but not from fear. From purpose. A shadow lunged from the trees, rifle raised. Eliza squeezed the trigger. The man dropped, snow blooming red around him. Her first kill. No time to dwell. Another shot rang out. Lucien grunted, staggered back, blood blooming on his shoulder. "Lucien!" Eliza scrambled to his side, dragging him behind the woodpile. his face twisted with pain, but his eyes stayed sharp. "Still breathin'," he growled. More figures approached. Eliza's chest clenched. Her aim was shaky, her legs weak, but giving up, that wasn't in her blood. As the last two men closed in, Eliza grabbed a burning log from the fire pit and hurled it into the snow ahead. Flames hissed, smoke curling, momentary cover. She rose behind it, pistol steady. The closest man turned, startled. Too slow. Bang. He fell. The last one, a scar-faced brute, rushed her. They grappled, boots slipping on ice. His hand closed around her throat, squeezing. Eliza clawed at his face, kicked hard. A shot cracked. The man froze, then crumpled. Behind him, Lucien lowered his rifle, smoke rising from the barrel. The snow fell silent again. Eliza gasped for breath, chest heaving. The attackers were dead, but so was any chance of going back. The fire crackled low in Lucien's shelter as dawn bled across the horizon, muted light creeping over endless snow. Eliza stitched Lucien's shoulder with trembling fingers. He winced, but didn't complain. "Didn't figure you for the fightin' kind," he muttered finally. Eliza arched a brow. "Didn't figure you for the savant kind." A faint smile ghosted his lips. "You could have run." "So could you." Lucien exhaled, gazed distant toward the forest. "Town's not safe for you now." Eliza's stitches tightened. "Wasn't safe before." They sat in silence. Then Lucien spoke. "You ever think of headin' west? Startin' fresh?" Eliza's eyes burned. "I ain't ever had fresh. But with the right person." Their gazes met, quiet understanding passing between them. Lucien stood slowly, his frame battered but upright. "Well, the trail's tough." He paused. "But side by side, maybe." Eliza nodded, a determined flicker in her eyes. "Then let's ride." They saddled up. No destination promised, no easy road ahead. But together, they faded into the snowy wilderness. Two survivors, carving their own path. Voiceover. "Turns out, sometimes what saves you ain't a man's strength. It's your own." Some trails are carved by choice, others by survival. But the toughest ones, they teach you who you really are. If this story gripped you like the wind on a snowy cliff, go on and hit that like button. Subscribe for more raw frontier tales, and tell us, what would you do standing on the edge of a choice like hers?